for our special segment, we spoke with Invictus Philippines Managing Director Tangan Ramos to break down for us how financial planning and targeted advertising can influence election outcomes on social media. Here's that interview.
And we're joined via Zoom by Tangan Ramos, Managing Director of Invictus Philippines, who specializes in maximizing ad spend impact and ensuring regulatory compliance in digital campaign finance. Tangan, welcome to Follow the Money, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good afternoon.
We appreciate you being here. Well, perhaps as a quick orientation, can you kindly share with us in which level of government, the politicians, or perhaps other personalities you handled social media campaigns for were from, and what kind of budgets they might have had, what timetable they kept, and which platforms they were most commonly using?
Okay. There are, I think, three questions. First, I've in our agency, in my current agency, in my previous agency, we've handled several election campaigns for national elections, for the national elections, for party list, senator, and some presidential campaigns. Aside from that, we've also handled some government agencies, not related to the elections. It's really just helping them with their communications. Now, for their expenditures, we always align the spending of any election campaigns based on the COMELEC regulations. So we educate ourselves as the agency on the updated regulations of the COMELEC on the specifically for spending, and in the digital space. I guess I don't want to just focus on just social media, because the digital space is a huge ecosystem, and social media is just one part of the platforms that we use when we do campaigns. I mean, obviously, social media is one of the biggest because most Filipinos are online. I mean, there's a 72% penetration rate on social media here in the Philippines. So that's 72% of the 120 million Filipinos. It's a huge number in terms of social media. So we've seen the changes of how election is being run for the past how many years. I mean, I've started dealing with election campaigns since 2007, when social media was not yet coined. The platforms that we are using are Friendster, Multiply, and we call the influencers or content creators as bloggers. So it's the growth of digital and social media in terms of the election campaigns really leaps and bounds.
There was a comment that really took hold among people from this current presidency that when he launched a social media campaign, it was years and years in the making, also because that he had a lot of history to unbundle or unpack. Whereas, let's say the social media campaign that a rival opponent only had a social media campaign for when she started when she decided to actually come on board as a presidential candidate. Does timing actually make a difference in making sure that social media campaigns are effective? And does the amount of budget that you put in also make a difference?
Okay. I definitely agree that timing is very important. And in social media, it's not just a one-time, big time. Okay, I decided to run now. Okay, let's do a social media campaign. It takes years. It takes time. It's really just building the relationship with your potential constituents for people online. No? As brand, I mean, we've handled several brands, and that's the core of our agency. And we always tell our partners and our clients, it will take time for you to be able to build that reputation. So same goes with any candidate. You have to continuously engage talk to them, communicate to them, for them to be able to listen to you, or to, I guess, to really know that you are serious in running for in government. And obviously, budget plays a big role, because social media is not free. Yes, we can do organic content. I mean, you can post in your social media platforms, but there is a paid component to it. For you to be able to reach the wide audience, you have to do paid media. In anything, I mean, traditional media, it's paid. Digital media, you have to also invest in it. I'd like to go back to the point of where you have to really build that credibility, build that the time for you to be able to get the attention of your audience. So money is also involved in it. I mean, all of these platforms, it's also a pay for play. We have to, I mean, we have to accept it. All of these platforms, they also need to earn money. So for you to be able to send that message out to a specific audience, you have to pay. You have to do paid media. And depends also on the platform, depends also on the objective. Cost varies. No, it's not a like traditional media have a rate card and that's it. In digital media, in social media, price varies, depends on your target audience. It depends on the location. It depends on the behavior of your audience. It also depends on your objective.
And talking about ad spend for social media, would you be able to track the return on investment on a particular campaign? And would you be able to use data analytics, for example, to see how much engagement, how much reach, or how much conversions you're able to extract from your campaign? And in that way, in the same way, are you able to use this data to submit it to the Commission on Elections? Because, of course, they are also keeping track of how much spend and, how much compliance a particular candidate is making.
That's the beauty of digital. Everything can be tracked. Well, again, you go back to your objective. Are you a new personality that wanted people to, I mean, for awareness, or do you want people, or you want conversion or advocacy? It really depends. But everything that you do online can be tracked. So as the agency who manages the campaign, we usually start off with creating protocols and systems so that we can report on a regular basis. On the spending, definitely, we do not, what we do when we pass the SOSE at the end of every campaign is we use the third-party data of the platform. So the data is not coming from us. It's coming from the platform. So everything is transparent. Transparency is very, in our agency, transparency is it's the one of the core principles on how we run campaigns. So we make sure that we set up all of these protocols, and we have a weekly, weekly, bi-weekly, or sometimes daily monitoring of spend. And again, it will always go back to the objectives and the KPIs. Yes, we can track the return of investment in every spend. But it's not just siloed into just the digital space. No, what we do is we try to integrate the data into different data points. For example, if there's a survey coming up, we will make sure that maybe in one of the questions, digital, if did you see a material on this candidate on social media? It's part of the questionnaires that we're going to push to our other partners, especially in the traditional surveys. But yes, we can track engagement, we can track share voice, we can track even sentiment. So we can also track the shift of sentiment. We usually do a baseline of sentiment analysis for a particular candidate and then check if our efforts, if our content is slowly kind of shifting the sentiment of people on that specific candidate. So it's important for us to also track that so that we know how to further communicate and how to further iterate the things that we're doing on social media or in digital.
To your point about shifting sentiment and making an impact, how do you ensure that social media campaigns remain cost effective while still achieving a broad and impactful reach? What about influencer marketing, for example? Does it really make a big difference in your campaign strategy, whether you have an influencer as part of your campaign, or are they like an extra fee, an extra charge, extra expense that may not be able to give you as much returns as you wish?
Okay, in terms of efficiency, I think again the beauty of digital is you can iterate on a regular basis your messaging, but obviously you have to have one message across all. But what we do is try to bring it down specific to a core or different types of audiences. And of course, you also have to do voter profiling. I mean, one message cannot be maybe accepted by the people from the Mindanaos compared to the people from Luzon. So we have to make sure that we create different messages depends on the context, the culture, and issues of a specific maybe location or a specific province. Now for influencer marketing, I know influencers, content creators are a big thing, especially here in the Philippines. I mean, we follow all of these influencers. I mean, personally, I follow a few and I'm kind of influenced by what they do, what they buy. But I think what is important is for us to vet first the alignment of values. I think that's the first thing that we have to consider. If the values of the influencer matches with the candidate. And then after that, take a look at the three different things: reach, relevance, and resonance. Yes, you may have millions and millions of followers, but again, it's not the influencer that you are targeting, but the followers of the influencer. So is it aligned to who we are targeting? And if that influencer also is kind of engaging with their followers. So when we do influencer marketing, I mean, it's not just all about numbers. I mean, yes, it's important, but there are several things that we have to consider. And yes, there is merit in getting influencers. To your question about fees, some ask for fees, but I guess for election, it's kind of different. I mean, because we Filipinos sometimes are so, I guess, very particular in our belief system. Some influencers will help us without asking for monetary exchange. There are some who will, but typically, usually for brands, I mean, that's a given. I mean, they will ask for fees. But from my observation, when it comes to political campaigns, election campaigns, some do not ask for monetary exchange.
Well, of
But
course,
it will really depend, no? It really depend on the type of influencer that you're getting.
I am so impressed by the kind of numbers, the kind of data that some influencers are able to present to, let's say, clients and ad agencies, social media campaign managers, as to the kind of reach that they have. And it's really quite a science and a discipline, which means, and so whenever suddenly there's a campaign that's launched and suddenly there's a scandal or an event that doesn't quite align with both the influencers' perspective as well as the candidates. You have a crisis on your hands. What then? How do you manage that? And like, if I had to budget for it as a candidate, what kind of timing, budgetary constraints, or requirements should I be attuned to?
Okay. My principle in crisis management, because I've handled several crisis management for brands, I mean, some public officials as well. It's all about preparation. So you don't think about the crisis when it's already happening. So when we start any engagement with any personality or in any brand per se, we make sure that we set up all of these protocols. We do all of these issues. I mean, we have to also think about how the opponent is thinking, what are the issues that will be thrown to our principal. So we list it down, we do analysis, and then we make sure that we prepare for all of these issues. So we have answers already. We do tracking of all of these negative issues that are coming up in social media, and we list it down. So I think in any crisis, no, I don't, and I mean, before a crisis happens, I think our principle is to make sure that you catch potential crisis. Maybe it's just an issue, a reputational issue, and then try to mitigate it instantly before it becomes a big issue or becomes a major crisis. So our process is to create a crisis management protocol. So, and then we segment the issue based on levels. I mean, there's a level 1, level 2, level 3 crisis, and then there are already processes in place. Okay, when this happens or when this issue comes up, what will be our answer? So everything is just push button. So on the budget, I think it should be part of the agency fees already. I mean, it will really depend on the principal, but from my practice is to always incorporate it already at the beginning. I mean, you don't wait for a crisis to happen. I mean, obviously, we don't want any crisis. So you start off with preparation.
Tantan, would it be okay to ask what is the industry standard in terms of fees right now? And if I understand correctly, even you as an agency would be in a position to choose which candidates you actually back. And I know from experience as well that some agencies actually don't charge their own fees depending on, their how much support they're actually giving this particular candidate in hopes of like other goodwill trades later on. Is that within the purview of your experience as well?
Yes, actually, sige, I'll answer first the if we yeah. Yes, we choose our clients. Me personally, I'm very vocal on my position on certain things. So I make sure that our values also are aligned. And so when we get our clients, our values should be aligned. In terms of fees, it will really depend on the service. I mean, there are hard costs. Obviously, media is a hard cost. Production of materials. You need people to do the video editing. And usually in agencies, we get third-party supplier for video production. So it's already a hard cost for us. But there are instances where we also do pro bono. In the previous presidential election, we did a few programs and campaigns pro bono because we strongly believe in the candidate that we're supporting.
Perhaps as the last question, I'd like to find out what is your hope for the kind of election campaign that we're about to launch this midterm 2025 election? What kind of social media campaigns and communications or messaging would you like to see? And, what kind of leadership from among the candidates would you like to see from among, for the Philippines, for our country?
Oh, I've been in the digital marketing industry for quite some time, since 2004. So I've seen how people weaponize all of these social media platforms. It's so frustrating for me because this is part of my advocacy. So I teach to senior high school students. I teach to marketing professionals. I do talks. And it's always a passion for me to really advocate responsible use of social media for this election. And I've seen how dirty it is. I've seen how people are just so, how do I say this? I mean, there's just so much negativity in this space. Instead of us, I mean, all of these candidates talking about their platforms, their vision. I mean, the disalign na parang we, instead of us communicating to our possible or to Filipinos, we just try to protect whatever is happening because people keep on doing negative campaigning. And I think that's the first thing. I mean, the negative campaigning, I think it has to stop. And I'm sure I mean, that's our hope. But obviously, I don't think it will happen immediately. The negative campaigning is just so, my God. I mean, I see it every day. Yeah, yeah. And it affects us. And me personally, it affects me. I mean, in my line of work, I see all of these negative things, fake news, misinformation, disinformation. And it's disheartening. Instead of us focusing on building the nation and using all of these social media platforms to really for the Philippines to improve, it is being used as a weapon for negative campaigning. And that's my hope. And that's my dream, to stop all of these negative campaigning in the digital space.
And hopefully, in that regard, the Philippines will be able to move forward and grow economically with our brand new leadership. Tangan Ramos, Managing Director of Invictus Philippines, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us and giving us a thorough look into the strategies and the finances that drive successful social media campaigns. Thank you so much.